And welcome everybody to TNM Unplugged, the space when you elevate your heart, your soul, your mind, your body to the next level of itself. And today we're going to have wonderful elevation. Joining us again, Ismael Perez, author of Our Cosmic Origin, which is the #1 book bestseller on Amazon. And this book really kind of communicates the Earth's place in multiverse, our galactic history, and the organization of our cosmos. We already had Ismael in part #1, and our community was really, really invigorated, happy. We received wonderful comments, a lot of questions, and some of those questions we're going to decode today as well. And we're super grateful and happy to have Ismael joining us back again. Welcome, Ismael.
Thank you, Soran. I appreciate you guys having me back again.
Really, right. What are we going to explore today? My God, it's so exciting.
Whatever you guys want.
Well, it's so exciting. Hey, Ismael, it's so lovely to get this opportunity to talk to you again. I can't wait to see what the universe wants to happen through us today. And we've already, just to let our audience into it, we were just saying, let's do it like that. Let's see what wants to happen. But when we were talking earlier, there were two basic themes that sort of came out of the conversation that Zoran and I were having. And we realized that one of those two themes, overall themes, was ascension, but not so much about, the fact of, is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And how is it going to happen? But more about what will be the reality? What will be our reality? What will it look like and feel like after ascension? And not just on an internal level, but in terms of, the physical reality, the playing field that we'll be in there. And then the other one that emerged was, well, what about the physical reality we're in now? And we thought it would be really great to explore with you, more about how the origins and the nature of the current reality and the current playing field from a physical point of view, rather than us as humanity in it. So, Zoran, you had a great question that was focusing on the fundamentals of ascension. Do you want to start?
Yeah, but that's the first question we have for today. What is ascension? How would you define ascension, Ismael?
It's the evolutionary process of consciousness into higher levels of awareness and attainment. There's two types of ascensions. There is the primary ascension is the spiritual ascension. It is our reunion back with all that is through levels of awareness. And as we go higher and higher in density and dimensions, we eventually merge back with everything that is. That is the spiritual process of ascension. And there is a physical ascension as well. Now, the physical ascension is a little different, because our bodies are the most advanced, sophisticated vehicles that have ever been in design. So there are these galactic personalities that are in charge of the constant upgrading and modification of genetics to create even more and more better specimens. And so that is part of the physical ascension. In other words, if you compare us to the humans that existed in prior universes that came before our universe, they were obviously less evolved than us, the species, we drew from that. And not only did we drew from that, but they also added different species, and they also modified it in order to make better vehicles. So what makes us so unique in the multiverse is that out of all the species that exist, we here on the Earth carry the greatest diversity. We're like the completion. So basically our vehicles, as a result of that, are leading the way. They are the most advanced, sophisticated, natural living, organic technologies that once we begin to use more than our, 4% of our genetic material, we're going to be accessing levels of power that no other extraterrestrial race has ever accessed. So that's what we call physical ascension. But there's there's two forms of ascension. Now there is another factor or component which is the reverse of the ascension, called the descension or the involution of spirit into matter. And this is one of the things I'd like to explain, which I talked about in my book, that before the ascension, there was only oneness. There was just one complete, unqualified wholeness. On a very underlying level of reality, it still exists that way in the form of what scientists call the unified field, right? Quantum singularities, this field of energy, right? Craig Braden talks about the living matrix. It is everywhere. It's all around us. So by virtue of that, we're still connected fundamentally as one energy field. So the process of involution, which is the opposite of evolution or ascension, is when that oneness decided to break off into different forms and pieces. And so you could say that the division aspect of reality is the dissension, is the involutionary process, where the one becomes the two, the seven, or the three, the seven, the 12, the 144, and it just keeps factorizing. That is part of the descent. So we're dealing with, we're now in the process of the ascent. We dealt with the involutionary descent process for over 900 billion years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time. But again, it's all because these vehicles have finally been perfected. In other words, these are the only vehicles in all of existence that for the first time in cosmic history are going to be able to become immortalized and reach levels of reality that no other species could attain. And that is the reason, my friends, why all the extraterrestrials out there, both good and bad, need us, and they covet our genetics, and they give us terms like galactic royalty. They give us terms like the, God's cream of the crop, God's ultimate masterpiece. There's different terminologies that they use to talk about us here on the earth.
I mean, Vivian, what do you say about that?
I say, now I'm off mute, that flies in the face of this kind of perception. Is it just me? But this perception that somehow we as light beings are trapped in this physical body, and that this physical body is somehow dense and low frequency. I never really considered our physical vehicle to be, this advanced, to have the superpowers you seem to be alluding to.
Exactly. Well, everything happens for a reason. Some people would say, well, this is a soul entrapment. We're only free when we let go of these flesh and bone vehicles. But that's not the key. In order for us to reach even higher levels of expansion and growth, we have to experience the lowest of dimensions. And to be honest with you, our soul, our spirit is so powerful that it could actually occupy and operate many avatars all at the same time. So while we're down here in the third dimension with only a fraction of our consciousness operating in this body, we're also operating with different avatars all the way up into the 12th dimension. So we have like a total of 12 avatars, to be frank with you guys. And in each avatar, we have more, depending on the dimension, the higher we go in dimension, the more consciousness and the more awareness we have of things.
So the people who are new, I know you shared this several times in different interviews. Can you explain those dimensions, harmonic universes and dimensions once again, so people can relate to what you're saying right now?
Of course. So we do live in a 50-dimensional time matrix in which everything exists in, all the universes, all the planes of reality, both spiritual, mental, physical, and every density, all within the 15-dimensional matrix. Now, why do they call it the 15-dimensional matrix? Because in a way, reality operates like a simulation. We have a Planck length, right, which is a small scale of reality, the tetrahedrons. Well, it turns out that every dimension is generated by one of these, geometrical patterns. So when you think about it in a sense of a simulation, it's actually as a living simulation. It is a living simulation because it is connected to spirit and source and a living conscious mind that is aware of things. Without the awareness of the conscious mind, guys, the 15-dimensional time matrix ceases to exist. It's only held together by consciousness, as proven through the double slit experiment in quantum physics. It's only there. It only collapses into the particle when there is an observer. When there is no observer, it goes back into its waveform and it's everywhere at once. That's exactly how our reality is. Okay, so explaining the different dimensions. So we could see, dimensions as different forms of energy matter vibrating at different frequencies. It's all the same. It's all part of one singular light spectrum, but operating on 15 different frequencies of itself. So we could say that the higher the dimensions, the higher the frequencies are corresponding to the realms of eternity, or to the realms of what we called the celestial spheres with no beginning or end. And that includes dimensions 13, 14, and 15, which is equivalent to what we call in the deep knowledge or the galactic knowledge as harmonic universe number 5. So harmonic universe number 5 from the top down is the always existing realms. Those are the realms that existed before, the emanations of the etheric realms, and then later the precipitation of the material realms, which is what we call matter. And that includes the components of like time, space, and all of that stuff, right? And physical matter, as we know, that's all part of the third phase of this existence. So underneath the 13th dimension, we have the 12th dimension. Now the 12th dimension and the 11th and the 10th dimensions are the in-between point between the finite realities exists in the lower, I guess what we call from the 9th dimension down to the first dimension. Those are called the finite realities. In other words, those are part of the physical material realms. They have beginnings and they have ends, right? They're the simulations. And then, so we have the in-between point, and that is called harmonic universe number 4, which occupies dimensions 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so harmonic universe number 4 is also an in-between point between the eternal spheres and the finite spheres, as mentioned. Now, beyond harmonic universe number 4, through the involutionary process at the macro level of reality, where everything is stepping down in frequency, we also have harmonic universe number 3. And at that point, we are reaching the higher spheres of what we call now the finite realities. And, this is where, you could say source begins to take physical form as physical expression as in the form of guardians. And, the different races that are protecting and overseeing the evolutionary processes in the lower dimensions. So that's equivalent to harmonic universe number 3. And that occupies dimensions 7, 8, and 9. Okay, and then as we descend further collectively, then we have harmonic universe number 2. And then in that universe, we have dimensions 4, 5, and 6. Now everything becomes really physical at that point. And this explains the galactics, the interstellar races that come from different parts of our galaxy and beyond. They mostly occupy and exist in what is known as harmonic universe number 3, occupying dimensions 7, 8, and 9. And then beyond that, then you have harmonic universe number 2, which occupies dimensions 4, 5, and 6. And then those are even further congealed or further condensed races. And then, of course, we exist in the lowest aspect of all of that spectrum, known as harmonic universe number 1, which are the lowest dimensions, where everything seems to appear extremely solid. But now we are reversing the effect. Now we're moving up again into harmonic universe number 2. So that's the 5 harmonic universe, each one consisting of 3 different dimensions, from the 15 level of reality or 15 dimensional level of reality, all the way to the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, which is in harmonic universe number 1, and everything in between.
Beautiful, beautiful explanation. So now we are in harmonic universe number 1. Correct.
Yes.
And we are moving in the process of ascension.
Yes. When the ascension takes place, we're moving into harmonic universe number 2. So not only are we going into the 4th or 5th dimension, but some of us are going to be going into the 6th dimension. And nobody really talks about the 6th dimension.
Well, talk about it, Ismael. Tell us more.
Well, yeah, the 6th dimension, there's going to be different levels of upgrades. For the most part, the Earth Terrans, which is what I call the new souls, are going into the 4th dimension. And in the 4th dimension, their lifespan is going to be a few hundred years. They're not going to deal with illnesses or health issues, but yet they're not going to have any powers like supernatural powers. They're just going to be living healthier for 600 to 900 years, which is awesome. Lifespan increases.
900 years. I love it. I knew that. Go ahead.
And then those that are here as volunteers, the wanderers, the celestials, starseeds in human form, there's going to be different levels of upgrades beyond the 1st level. So the majority of Earth humans, which are the Earth Terrans, are going into dimension 4. And then from the starseed nation, the majority of the starseeds are going to go into dimensions 5 and 6. Now, some of the starseeds or some of the celestials that are also here working with the starseeds are so advanced that they actually came from the higher harmonic universes. And those are the very few star seeds that are going to be going into harmonic universe number 3, into dimensions 7, 8, and 9. And then some are going into harmonic universe number 4, into dimensions 10, 11, and 12. And so what's going to be interesting is that the Earth is going to be operating on all 12 dimensional frequencies, all working together as one, as it once did during the times of Atlantis, when the Earth was still not quarantined as it is now, but was still connected to the eternal life systems of the higher dimensions. So we're going to go back to that reality, but everyone's going to be existing on different levels of reality. But at the same time, it's going to be all connected. And the people in the higher dimensions are going to be able to have access to the lower dimensions. But unfortunately, for those in the 4th and 5th dimension, they're not going to have access to the 6th, 7th, or 8th and beyond until they go up in increments as well.
Quarantine. You said the word, the Earth is in quarantine right now. Why are we in quarantine?
Because of what happened during the times of Atlantis, when the negative Draco infiltrated the Nibirians, the original Anunnaki, those that were part of the planet Nibiru. So when they took over the affairs of our world after they corrupted Atlantis, the Galactic Federation and the spiritual councils decided to cut the Earth off from the rest of the galactic community. So the quarantine was actually done by the good guys in order to pin down the Draco here in our solar system for one final battle, which is unfolding in these days. And so that was a very clever move because what they did is they won the war at the galactic level of reality. They've already won the war. So what they did is the bad guys kind of infiltrated our solar system. And then that's when the good guys just kind of quarantined them here in our solar system for just a few thousand years because they were only given temporary control of our system. But now their time is up. So that's why the Earth was quarantined. It was quarantined in order to prevent the dark forces from leaving our system and trying to regain control of the galaxy once again. But that quarantine has been lifted as of 2018, by the way.
Okay, so I finally understand what they mean, because I've heard it before that on a galactic level, it's done. The battle's over. And it's just playing out here on Earth. So that now I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, Zoran. So that brings us to the whole, you were talking earlier about how interested you are in finding out about what that means for us when we're in that, and the fact that so many of us will stay and some of us will leave, and who will know what, and what will be our experience of that. I mean, what do you want to ask next?
It's going to be whatever all your dreams, everything that you've ever desired is going to be realized in the 5th dimension and better. So all of your hopes and dreams are going to be coming into reality once you shift into the 5th dimension. So
and also that the opposite could be true. This was something we were talking about earlier, right, Zoran, about how whatever we are, whatever vibration we're at, and whatever we're focused on, at the time that actually happens, will be manifest. Is that right, Ismael?
Absolutely, yeah. When the solar flash takes place, whatever is, exactly. Wherever you put your main focus on will be the reality that you're going to be, materializing in the 5th dimension. So that's why I always tell starseeds, it's very important to practice mindfulness so that you could be in constant control of your mind, because it is through your thoughts and through your emotions that you're going to be able to, create your own reality in the 5th dimension.
So, because we come from a development profession and we coach and work with people to gain their new skills and abilities. So what I'm observing is that people are awakening, but at the same time, I'm also seeing that not many people are in control of their minds and thoughts and emotions. And, if you look around, it's like, wow, one of the things that might happen, if you are not in relationship with yourself, is that you keep on recreating reality of fear or anxiety or negative states. Is that true? Would that happen? How would people get out of it then?
Well, if they can't begin to control their minds right now, it's going to be very hard for them to shift into a better reality. That's why there's going to be an alternative timeline for those that don't make the shift. But even in the alternative time at the end of 1,000 years of peace, here on the positive timeline, there's going to be one final opportunity for those that didn't make the shift now to then make the shift then at the end of the millennium.
Because how I understand the fifth dimensional reality, it's instantaneous reality creation, meaning when you shift dimension,
Exactly.
you
Once you shift,
instantaneously create exactly what you think. There is not a gap. So sometimes in this dimension, we have a gap between what we think and what manifests and creates, and we can manipulate it a little bit more and be prepared. But there, it's there immediately, right?
absolutely, yeah. Whatever you think, instantaneously you create with your mind. And then that's how the Lyrians used to do it. In advanced civilizations, our ancestors, they were so highly advanced that they were able to materialize just through the power of their thoughts. They were like natural replicators. And that's where we're heading as we begin to use more of our dormant DNA. So that's why that's why the technology, the interstellar and planetary technology that the Alliance is going to release to the general public when the disclosure takes place is only going to be applicable in the fourth dimension. Because in the fifth dimension and up, we are going to be the natural technology. We won't need machines. We won't need external technology.
Great. So what I'm hearing is that fourth dimension is going to be like a prep for us to get into the fifth dimension. So for people who are not really in relationship with their thoughts, with their feelings, and not able to be with themselves. I hate using word control, but let's use the word control, their mind will gently and softly get into it.
Correct. Yes.
And when you tune into collective and you feel the collective of humanity right now, what do you think is percentage of people who are able to manage that ascension in a good way? Meaning that when they're there, they will be able to create the life of the dreams that we're talking about. Everything will be available. It's going to be a paradise, beauty, and all good stuff that we really want to happen. What is the percentage that you feel is capable of doing that right now?
At the rate we're going, in this beautiful mass awakening that's taking place, I would say that a little under 15% of the population.
Right. And is that the reason why these timelines are shifting, that we're waiting for more people to be able to gain that level of awareness for this to be easier, or it doesn't matter?
No, it does matter, because we have to reach a certain critical level. We have to reach a mass what we call mass awakening. Once we reach a certain percentage, it causes automatically the entire planet to shift into that new reality by virtue of the collective dominating thought of the species that are, or the people that are thinking the same thing, rather.
And what is that tipping point? Do we know what that tipping point is? We're at 15% now. Where do we need to be?
I think we have to be at right under 20%. So we're almost there. Yeah, I think once we hit like 19 to 20%, that's it. It caused an automatic shift for the rest of humanity, because we all share a hive mind, a natural, all organic, planetary hive mind via telepathy.
Yeah, of course. So people. Now people are listening. I know that there's part of our community are like, what do I need to do to add to 5% remaining? Yeah. What do I need to practice? How do I need to be in order for me to be able to be ascending in a most beautiful way, but also contribute to this ascension process until we reach the tipping point?
What do you need to do? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay, the best thing to do is just be an example to others, always be the better person. And just know that every time you interact with people, whether they are awakened or not, you're making an impact on them, because energy is contagious. So if you're trying to do your best to stay in a high vibe through elevated emotions of gratitude, peace, love, compassion, and understanding, well, that's going to reverberate. That's going to echo. And, that's how we do it. We create it by shifting the collective energy. And then that's how we positively affect the unawakened to awaken through our vibration. Yeah. Our vibration is powerful, by the way. Just our mere existence alone here on the earth changed the overall vibrational frequency of the planet in just a matter of 60 years since the first waivers came in. So we've already shifted the timeline. We've already averted the Third World War. We've already averted all negative catastrophes that these fear porn guys are trying to still promote. So we've already avoided all the negative timelines. Yeah, the way I understand it is that we have these beings known as the Time Lords, and they have the ability to fast forward time if things need to speed up, or slow down time if things need to slow down. and they operate from the 13th dimension. So the Time Lords, ladies lords, whatever you want to call them, it's a balance, right? Are giving us an opportunity to reach critical mass, and that's why they're holding off all the the malicious malintentions from the dark sides, all the what are they called? Red flags, and whatever it is they want to create. They're preventing, they're holding that off so that we could reach critical mass.
The false flags. So all this, it is fear porn, and all the fear mongering and the warmongering and the starvation stories and is any of that relevant, viable, real, or is it literally just fear
It's
propaganda?
just fear, because they know that mind creates, and when you get enough people thinking the same thing, that's the timeline we're going to collapse. Again, it's all about I love that experiment, the double slit experiment in quantum physics. That experiment pretty much tells us everything. It's perception that creates reality. So if they could gear people, if they could maneuver as many people as possible to be thinking in that direction, then that's the reality they're going to create. But it's not going to happen, because many of us are not falling for that fear.
Okay, so literally what we allow into our own heads and what we allow ourselves to think is literally creating either what we want or what we don't want all the time. And things like acts of kindness are much more than just, sort of a tick on our CV of something nice to do, but we're actually then in those acts of kindness, we're helping to create that tipping point and to push us over the edge to the next level. I could have seen it as a spiral. I always think of it as like we're going round and round on the spiral. We're going round and round the spiral for I don't know what is it, 26,000 years or something, and suddenly we're just going to go up to the next level on the spiral. So we're on the same trajectory, but we've got a whole different view up there. And so can we? I don't know, Zoran, are you ready to sort of just look at from there, from where we're going to be when that tipping point happens? What will it feel like and look like, not just internally but externally? I mean, I've heard you talk about our galactic bodies. Is that an actual body? Are we still going to be in bodies? And how will we experience the physical world around us? Will quantum physics still be, how we experience the reality, or if you like, the foundations of how we experience reality over there?
It's going to be totally different. We're moving from a linear type of reality to a multi-dimensional reality. For those that are going to the fifth dimension, things are going to be multi-dimensional. We're going into the age of the quantum. And so, it's going to be so much different. And the galactic bodies that we possess in the fifth and sixth or seventh level of reality dimension is directly related to some of the dormant DNA. So when our dormant DNA activates, we're going to be integrating our higher bodies, our other avatars that operate, that are ageless, that that live for hundreds of thousands of years, that are indestructible. We're going to be able to integrate ourselves with those higher bodies, because right now all the 12 dimensions are separated as 12 different bands of reality. So when the ascension takes place, depending on where you're vibrating at your level of reality, whether it's in the fifth, sixth, seventh, or eighth, or even all the way to the 12th, that's where you're going to collapse. You're going to be, they're all going to come together. And depending on where you're at, you're going to be operating from, different dimensions, multidimensional.
And you're going to be aware of all different dimensions at the same time.
Yes, exactly. And then all your bodies are going to become one. Yeah, exactly.
And would you be able then to travel through dimensions at choice?
Absolutely. Exactly.
I love that reality, Vivian, don't you?
Oh, yeah. So is that what we mean? Is that another way of looking at time travel? I mean, given that time is really just a mental construct, that's the nature of time travel and how we will be able to move anywhere we want, not just in this dimension, but all dimensions. Is that?
That's exactly how time travel works. Yes.
That's quite exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. The higher you go in dimensions, you're more into the future. You're connected to your future self. The lower you go in dimensions, you're connected to every part of yourself, from your future to the past self and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's how it works.
But you mentioned something that I know a lot of our audience doesn't know much about, which is dormant DNA. Because what I understand is when this gets activated, then we will be able to become multidimensional human beings and ascend with ease and grace. So what happened to our DNA? Why is it dormant? And how can we reactivate it to the full capacity?
Okay. All right. So the reason our DNA, or 96% of our DNA became shut off, was because of what the dark forces did during the times of Atlantis. Not only did they attempt to corrupt the bloodline of Adam, the original 12-strand DNA Terranusian race, which are our ancestors, not the monkeys, not the primates, I'm sorry. But also they tried to mix us with different types of animal species and everything. So the good guys, you could say that the guardians, intervene to protect a certain strain in order to prevent the corruption of the DNA. And that strain survived through the story of Noah and his sons. Okay, so that there was the reason why the flood happened. It was an attempt by the good guys to do away with the abominations that were created by the Draco-negative Anunnaki through Enki and his son Marduk, the god of Babylon. And so what ended up happening was when Marduk rose to power, and I guess when he was creating the Tower of Babel, that was his way of trying to take over the world. And in order to do so, some of these humans who were already telepathic were actually, how can I say, they were aligning with his idea of world domination. And, he was teaching them he was giving them external technology at the expense of their spiritual evolution. So in other words, he was going to corrupt them by giving them the technology before they reached spiritual consciousness. And then, of course, we know that was a repeating scenario that caused the destruction of Atlantis when Enki did the same. When Enki gave all this technological knowledge to, certain groups of species that weren't spiritually evolved. So in order to prevent that from happening, the good guys actually disconnected 10 strands of our DNA. So that shut off our pituitary and our pineal gland. And then 90% of our brain became atrophied. And then as a result of that, 96% of our genetic material became shut down. Now, there was a reason why the good guys had to do that for the time being, okay? Was because if that wasn't the case, during the times of the Tower of Babel, Marduk was going to seduce the rest of humanity by giving them the advanced technologies back then, okay? They had their own secret space program. And that was going to eventually, he was going to use that as a way to regain control of the galaxy from this Earth. Because remember, the Earth had been under quarantine, okay? Following the collapse of Atlantis, the Earth became quarantined from the rest of the galactic community. So in order to prevent Marduk from subduing our planet and bringing about world domination during the times of the Tower of Babel, the good guys had to disconnect 10 strands of our DNA in order for the rest of humanity not to understand, what Marduk was trying to convey telepathically. I don't know if that makes any sense. So 90, the majority of humans there had to be shut down just for the time being in order to not be, I guess, subjugated and seduced by Marduk, who in turn was going to use them to bring, to eventually regain control of the galaxy from this Earth. So that's the reason why they shut down 10 strands of our DNA. It had nothing to do with the bad guys.
I always wanted to ask you this question. How did they do it? How did they shake it? Is it the button? Or is it?
It's not a button. They actually put implants in our astral emotional bodies.
All right. So it's from the higher level.
They did it in the astral level, and they did it, and that caused the chemical hormone known as pinoline and carbonylines, I think they're called. I forget the name of the second one, but there's two hormones that actually feed our pituitary and our pineal gland so that they could operate at full capacity. So when they stopped the excretion of those hormones, our pineal and our pituitary gland became dysfunctional, and then that's when 95 or 96% of our genetic material became turned off. So that's how they were able to do it. But they had to do it in order to secure the newfound power here on the Earth through the Tower of Babel, through Babylon, from gaining control, absolute control of our world, and then from that point using that to regain control of the Pleiadians and then the rest of the galaxy. Because remember, the galactic community had already pinned them down into our solar system during the times following the fall of Atlantis.
So there you go. Before you ask next question, the good guy shut us down. I love it.
So this is
No, but
this is fascinating.
Yeah, it's a
So there's
fascinating video game.
a lot of stuff going on in the background that has been for our own good and that we haven't understood, and for a lot of time has been attributed to the bad guys. You know, that's dark
yeah.
forces. Now, the thing is, why did all this happen in the first place? So the fact that they had to quarantine the Earth, and the fact that they had to shut down our DNA, was that part of the divine plan, or was it like a glitch in the matrix and something that went wrong, which also opens up the whole chapter on Lucifer, the Dracos, and the why of all this?
It was part of the divine plan. It was in a way to secure the rest of the galactic community from once again being retaken by the dark side. But the implants were given a limited period of time. In other words, the way they did it is like they put a timer on it, and the timer is actually has to do with now the times that we're now living in. So that timer is no longer, it's already like in other words, the implants are already overdue. So now the implants are being taken away, or in other words, they're becoming neutralized. And that explains why the awakening and the activations are now taking place now. Many of us are experiencing ascension symptoms. Our abilities are enhancing. Some of us are becoming telepaths. All that is coming online because of the fact that the clock has run out on the implants, on the astral implants. And that was, again, divinely done by the good guys, so that when the time was right, we could be ready to activate and transform into galactic superhumans as guardians. And that's when we're going to become the guardians, the new guardians. So it was all planned by the good guys.
So are the bad guys divine too?
Well, I don't know if they're divine, but I'm sure that in the overall scheme of things, they do play a key role, because ultimately, good and bad are always, how can I say it? It's part of a duality. It's an experiment in duality, and that experiment is also temporary. Eventually it is over with, and it was just allowed to exist in order to grow at the highest level of reality. When you consider that the universe is one huge giant mind, right? That mind only expands when it has moments of duality. So those are temporary moments, and that moment is up. Yeah.
So we might not describe them as divine because it doesn't kind of work, but they do play a role in the divine plan. And
They do play a role in the
purpose.
divine plan. Exactly.
Okay, then. So Lucifer, and what's the relationship between that story? The sort of, I don't know, for want of a better way of putting it, sort of the biblical version of Lucifer, fallen angel, etc. And then the reptilians and the Dracos and this guy Enki. Is there a relationship between the two? Are they different ways of saying the same thing?
They're all one and the same. Enki was the Draco's way of infiltrating the Nibirians, the original Anunnaki. So they're all working together.
Okay.
Which reminds me, Enki has returned, and he's no longer an organic specimen. He's become, I guess, cybernetic. He's infested with nanotechnology, and now he's 75% robotic and only 25% biological, which is, so he has recently returned within the last 10 months, and under the guise of trying to restore the Grail genetic blueprint, which is supposed to bring cures to humanity. But that's just his deception in order to abduct a lot of women that are calling themselves emissaries of the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds. So, he's been abducting these women in the last 10 months, harvesting their genetics, their galactic genetic blueprints, in order to infiltrate the Galactic Federation. But the Guardian Alliance, which operates at a level beyond our galaxy, they became aware of the situation, and now the Galactic Federation has reorganized into the Galactic Alliance. Yeah.
I bet you we both have the same question coming up that we want to ask Thorin around the Galactic Federation and the Galactic Federation of Light, and what's the difference, and how do we know the difference? Could you clarify for us, Ismael?
Yeah, well, the Galactic Alliance is a interstellar intergalactic treaty that was signed even before the Lyrans came into play, 8 billion years ago here in our galaxy. So it is a covenant that was put together by members of the fifth harmonic universe, fourth and third, that came into the second harmonic universe, which is where we exist, or we existed before, prior to descending into the first harmonic universe, in order to create some sort of cosmic treaty of different guardian races who wanted to, bring forth the cosmic divine plan here into our neck of the woods. And so that's what overall is known as the Galactic Alliance. And I'm sorry, the Guardian Alliance,
Right,
So
okay.
yeah, that's the Guardian Alliance. The Galactic Federation was an organization that was developed by advanced interstellar races in order to combat the expanding Draco Empire.
And how does that, and what's the difference between that and the Galactic Federation of Light and the Galactic Federation of Worlds?
Well, the original name was, they all started off as different confederacies, different conglomerates of systems joining forces to protect themselves. After, the Draco began to expand, or after they converted themselves to the Orion Empire, with the help of the Nordics of Aldebaran, which also came from Lyra, who were traders, by the way, the different confederated systems decided to join forces, and then that's how they created the Galactic Federation. So that's the difference. The Galactic Federation is an interstellar organization, a galactic police force, and the Guardian Alliance is there are races that are beyond the galaxy that are overseeing the affairs of our galaxy and other galaxies. Because each galaxy has its own federation, you could say. But in our galaxy, we have reorganized to the Galactic Alliance due to the Enki's infiltration. And his agenda is twofold. The first one is to infiltrate the Federation fleet. He attempted, but then, of course, he was blocked by the Guardian Alliance. And then the second reason he's harvesting galactic genetics from our women is because he's also developing another abomination that is supposed to be a sort of like a drone cyborg that is going to be used. I guess that it's a mixture of like cybernetic, AI genetics, Zeta genetics, insectoid genetics, Draco genetics, and then, of course, our genetics to create something extremely powerful. That's his version of, of what the good guys were making with us, right? Because we're the good guys version of the ultimate mass, guardian race that was developed for billions of years. Well, that's Enki's version of that. And from what I understand is that we're not going to deal with that abomination until the end of the millennium. That's why we're going to have at least 1,000 years of peace when the Ascension takes place, or the solar flash. And then that explains why the Bible and other books have talked about this final war. They say that for 1,000 years, evil is going to be put on a leash. And then after 1,000 years, it's going to be unleashed for one final war against evil. Well, that war is going to be against these, Draco, Anunnaki, drone cyborg things that he's developing right now.
But what I understand, by that time, we are going to be fully activated with our dormant DNA. And we will be gaining all our new skills and abilities and becoming, this mega version of the human being and realizing our true potential, right?
Absolutely. So we definitely win that war because of that. We're going to be given 1,000 years to train and use more dormant DNA, so that we become really powerful.
So let's say that somebody who is stumbling on this podcast has never heard this before. And I think that one of the most impressive things that we talked so far is how remarkable, powerful, amazing actually we are. And when I'm talking to people have difficulties believing that. They have difficulties believing that we are this galactic royalty, that our DNA is so precious, that within ourselves we have all these dormant powers that we're activating. So how can we normalize it and kind of get people to relate to it in a way that they would say, wow, isn't that interesting? How can I start believing that? You see what I mean by that?
Yeah, well, it's kind of one of those things where if you begin to talk about that with people that are considered not awakened, they're probably going to think you lost it. They're probably going to think you're weird,
They do. You're right, Ismael.
I think as the genetic mutations continue to happen, and as more of us begin to use more of our dormant DNA, and as we get closer to the great solar flash, that's when we are going to be emerging as the next stage of human evolution for the new souls, which is like almost 85% of the world population, or 90, are going to know that we've been living among them the whole time. And then that's when they're going to believe us. They're going to believe us once they see us teleporting, flying, saving them from tsunamis and earthquakes, right? All that stuff. Like, where do these heroes come from? Who are these guys?
Walking the talk, basically, like walking the talk, not only talking about it, but living that reality. Is that correct? So when you see it, then you believe it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the solar flash or solar flare, that would serve as the signal to reactivate or to enhance our awakening or activation of the dormant DNA, correct?
Absolutely, yes. And some of us are going to go beyond 12 strands. Some of us are going to activate 24 strands, and then a small number of us are going to activate 38 to 48 strands. And those are going to be the most powerful beings in the multiverse.
Really, I know how much I'm going to activate. I don't know about you. I'm already on 38, and you?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm planning on going to 44 strands of DNA.
I mean, maybe are you on 44 or 38?
There's a the ultimate DNA activation that would be equivalent to us using our full genetic material would be 144 strands.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's how powerful we are.
I have so much to look forward to.
Same here.
Even you're new.
144, that's 12 by 12. I'm really interested in the whole, you answered a lot of our questions that we had around quantum physics and to what extent, quantum physics is not just a theory, but real and underpins our universe. And you kind of answered that for us earlier on. But when it comes to the numbers and, things like, the fact that that's 12 times 12, there are 12 houses of in the zodiac. There were 12, was it 12 gods or 12 disciples? I mean, all this number stuff and the fact that 22 is a master number and 33 is sacred mathematics and sacred geometry really a thing? And is it active and defining the way that we live?
Absolutely. Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. All reality is projected through sound frequency vibrations that are generated by geometrical patterns or living geometries rather. And they're living geometries. They're conscious. Geometry is it's also conscious,
Yeah.
Everything in our reality comes what they call it's what scientists have recently discovered as it's a geometrical pattern that gives existence to everything. I think call them I can't think of the name right now, the ultimate hadron or something like that. The ultimate hadron. I can't think of the name, but there's a name that they've discovered that which is like in which everything collapses to just one geometrical pattern that acts as a seed of life for everything in existence. Everything comes from that one pattern.
Now, of course, all of this comes under the umbrella of the Melchizedek. And I've heard you say in one of your interviews that you are actually a part of that order, and that Melchizedek is somehow, and we've kind of known this for a long time, Zoran and I as well, is closely linked to this whole sacred mathematics, geometry, things like the Fibonacci sequence, the ratio, the golden ratio. Can you tell us a little bit about that, about how the influence of Melchizedek energy and what it actually represents in relation to our physical reality?
Well, the Melchizedek energy is the father figure energy. I call them the three M's. You have Metatron, you have Melchizedek, and you have Michael. Well, Metatron is the equivalent of what we call the Father Absolute, the giver of life, residing from the central universe. Melchizedek is like the Ancient of Days, I guess the progenitor of the Michaels and the orders of the Michaels, or of the creator sons and daughters that oversee the local universes. So Melchizedek is like the father figure, also known as the Ancient of Days. We consider Metatron the eternal of days. And then, of course, the Michaels are like the union of days. So they all work together, to and even through mathematics and science, it all stems from from the 12 archetypes. We also have the 12 archetypes. We also have the 7 mighty Elohim. So it's not like just one being. It's like that one being operating on different frequencies, exploring different aspects of itself through different names and functionaries. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, and when you join all those dots, you get the gods of Mount Olympus, and the links to the planets and the houses of the zodiac, and it's all linked to sacred geometry and the mathematics that underpins our existence.
Yes, yes.
We're coming close to the end of our show. We have two important questions, and then wrap up. So one important question I really wanted to ask you for a long time is, what about unity consciousness? In traditional spirituality, a lot of the people believe that once we transcend from this reality, which is third-dimensional reality, into the fourth, fifth, and sixth, you actually move from the polarity into unity. And what I understood that now polarity consciousness, it's available, or it's there throughout all the dimensions, because we've been talking about the war, about conflict. There is always duality. Is that correct?
It was correct, but now it's not correct. Now it's different because the dimensions have been cleansed. See, the way it works is that the forces of light begin the house cleansing from the top down. So the war broke out in the 11th dimension with the AI god Omega, and of course members of the central race had to block him off from accessing the realms of eternity. So from the 11th dimension, we could say that we've been kind of, eliminating the darkness, and then we managed to push them down into the lower fourth dimension where they currently reside. So upon the ascension, polarity is no longer going to exist beyond the fifth dimension. I guess that's the new protocol. The fifth dimension and up is going to be just pure unity, love, and freedom, where everything is intricate. People begin to see everything as one, in other words.
Yeah.
I really have to work hard to get the system. Fantastic. But that was a good question, because in a traditional spirituality, yogi masters, spiritual gurus, they always talk about that. They always talk about we will move from polarity to unity. And now we understand that this is possibility as well. It has been secured, so to say, right?
Yes, and we can actually begin to do that within ourselves. We have to find the integrating point between our shadow self and the light. We all have duality in us too. Some people call it masculine, feminine. So we have to find that common neutrality, because when we collapse the polarity within, we collapse it without. And that's the secret. And that's when we know we're going into the fifth dimension and up. It all starts with the shadow work, yes. Integrating the shadow and
self-acceptance, self-acceptance, self-love, all of it, warts and all. Yeah, not just the good bit, the shanty bit, all of it. Okay.
Love yourself for every on every level. Love yourself on the entire circumference, not just one part of the wheel, but every aspect of yourself. Yeah, and learn how to balance, and that's how to tame the ego.
Fantastic.
So let's wrap up, Vivian, with what's next. So here we are. We're recording on a very special day in September. I'm not going to say the date, but a very, very special date for all of us. So what happens next? We're already in ascension process, so to say.
Correct. Yes, we already are. But we're waiting for that final release of the sun to catapult the rest of humanity into the new heaven on earth.
Yeah.
Vivian, any final thoughts, questions?
No, I'm done. Thank you so much, Ismael. You answered so many questions, joined so many dots for me, and I can't think of a better way or a better message to leave people with. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure.
You're welcome, Vivian. You're welcome, Vivian.
So all the good things are happening. We stay positive, be mindful, yes. Be blessed, believe in yourself.
Love yourself.
Love yourself. Even if it sounds weird, consider it. Yeah. Ismael, anything from you? I mean, you said a few beautiful things towards the end. Any last words? How would you like to leave audience?
Yeah, I always leave the audience with, I guess, remind yourself that you are creator, source, and embodiment. Wake up every morning with gratitude and, realize that you have everything within you. All the answers are within yourself. We're living in a time where there's going to be no more gurus or masters or hierarchy or priests or popes or pastors. We're living in a time where every single person has to realize the God within, or the God is within. And also don't forget to order my book. It's taking the world by storm. You could get it on Amazon, Art Cosmic Origin. It is a book that really just takes you to the next level and shatters the matrix as we know it. So, and for those that want to go deeper into this, our cosmic origin theme, I do teach courses online. And you could reach me at the Mystic Arts. I teach the Starseed Cosmology course. And unfortunately, I am booked till this January now. So, no, I'm sorry, December. But we just opened up the January class. If you guys, want to reserve your spots, you could go to themysticarts.org.
And of course, we're going to reference all of these sites under in the description of this podcast. Ismael, thank you so much for your beautiful energy, for positive infusion of love and light. We're super grateful to have you, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Soren. Likewise, my friend. We'll see you later.
Bye. Bye for now.
And
Bye,
for
Vivian.
thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on our next podcast very soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.